Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us is Dr. Glen Depke. He is a traditional naturopath whose expertise lies in the areas of supporting natural hormone balancing, supporting the gut-brain connection, immune support, and supporting natural inflammatory states. He is currently the national educator for Dr. Mercola on various topics of wellness, and as well as the program and product, and as well as a part of the program and product development for Dr. McCullough products. So we are always so grateful to work with you, Dr. Debke. Thank you so much.
Now, Elizabeth, it is always my pleasure to do anything for Marlene's, that's for sure.
So you have a really fascinating topic tonight to share with us.
Oh, absolutely. And let's get right into it then as well. And what we're going to get into tonight is really discussing the keto diet and even a little bit more specifically to support healthy weight management and energy production. The thing that I've been a naturopath in private practice since 2001, so for 22 years now. Spent a number of years working alongside Dr. Mercola in his clinic. And, here we are, towards the end of February. And for a lot of people that have had some New Year's resolutions of, improving what's going on with their weight and their energy, a lot of times at this point, people have maybe found some success and slipped back a little bit, or maybe didn't find some success. And now you're just looking to maybe take everything to that next level, with your overall health, with supporting a healthy weight and really with supporting healthy energy. And it's a common complaint that I've seen over the years of people just dealing with this, significant daily fatigue to the point where they can't even really enjoy the aspects of life that they truly aspire to enjoy, just because they don't have the energy for it, right? So that's a big thing for all of us. And I welcome everybody who is not only on live with this, but also those who are watching the streaming on social media, and also for those who are catching the replay of this in the future. And it's going to be some great information. It's going to tie in both lifestyle aspect as well as what you can actually use from a supplement perspective, again, to help yourself achieve a healthier weight, manage that properly, and also a healthier energy production across the board. Now, one thing I always like to bring up at the beginning, because many people aren't aware of this, yet with Dr. Mercola is a major supporter of advocacy across the board. So our products are not just sold to assist with your health and to improve what's going on in your life, but a big reason why our products are sold is to really support our mission and our advocacy. Now, whether this is addressing non-GMO support, or the right to know genetically engineered labeling, or anti-fluoridation, or elimination of mercury, or really any of the other avenues you see below or more, has always been a major focus for Dr. Mercola. And he really is all about education and helping people, in essence, take control of their own health, right? And so tonight, with supporting the metabolic health and also supporting healthy weight management, there's some areas that we want to focus on, because it's not, a lot of times it just turns into, well, you just have to diet and exercise. Well, if it was really just diet and exercise, we would all achieve this, because we've all known about that for a number of years, if not decades in our life, right? So what I like to tie into, helping you in reaching your goals, is looking at multiple different subjects that all tie into the overall intentions you're looking for with this. And it starts with your fundamentals of health. And as a part of your fundamentals is going to be your nutrition, which we'll talk about the keto diet here. Also helping support healthy glucose and insulin, a major key and a big key factor to recognize that almost 90% of our culture is dealing with some type of metabolic issues, whether it's diagnosed or not, which then plays a huge role in what's going on with your own energy and your own weight as well. we want to talk about this area, something I always refer to as a gut-brain connection. So supporting a healthy brain and supporting healthy digestion, to recognize that these are interconnected. It is very well recognized that about 90% of your brain output goes right down the vagus nerve, through the spinal column, into the nervous system tissue in the gut and surrounding areas, and comes right back up. So when there's a problem in the gut, there's a problem in the brain. When there's a problem in the brain, there's a problem in the gut, and you cannot separate those. A very important distinction. And obviously optimizing fat burning on every level that you possibly can, and through the correct connection of both lifestyle as well as supplemental support for that is extremely important. Now, the first thing, and one of the most simple and essential areas to improve any level of health, is what we would consider your fundamentals of health. So I like to use a analogy of building a house. You can see that kind of crude rendition of a house we all learned how to draw when we were just very small children. And it's when you think of building a house, you have fundamentals to build a house. You might need bricks, lumber, drywall, roofing, nails, concrete, and such to build a house. And to build your health, you also have fundamentals, which would tie into the air you breathe, the water you drink, your nutrition, your sleep, your movement, your exposure, healthy exposure to sun, and then the energetics, which is the foundation. So I want to get into all of these a little bit deeper, just to help you understand the importance of this across the board, and think of this as the beginning of creating any positive shift in your health when you think of your fundamentals. So first off, with deep breathing, something to recognize, and most people aren't aware of this, is that whenever you take a breath of air, you expose approximately 1/4 of your blood to the oxygen in that breath. And then just in a very short matter of moments, maybe 4 or 5 seconds, that blood is dispersed throughout your body to oxygenate the cells in your body, which is the simple, most basic fundamental of your life on a regular basis, is getting enough oxygen to the cells. So one of the challenges that I see with this, and have seen over the years, is that most people breathe very short and very shallow. And we take a breath and it's very short, very shallow, which then restricts the amount of oxygen you're getting to the blood, which then restricts the amount of oxygen you're getting to your cells. So one thing that would be fantastic for every single one of us to do, and specifically for you, is to incorporate deep belly breathing through the day, where you take in a very deep breath through your nose for approximately a count of 7, hold that breath for about a count of 4, and exhale for about a count of maybe 5 to 7, depending on how long you can exhale. And when you inhale in this breath, you want to expand your stomach to allow the full capacity of your lungs to be engaged. And then when you're breathing this out forcefully through your mouth, you would be contracting the stomach muscles to push every ounce of that breath out, so you can take another really good, deep, full breath. So it looks kind of like this. Remember, in through your nose, hold it, and then forcefully out through your mouth. And here's what it would look like. It'd be like, and then really blow that out until there's no breath left to leave your lungs. And what I recommend all the time is to take at least 3 to 5 really good deep belly breaths like this every hour through your day, which will help to create a higher level of oxygenation to the cells. And some other fantastic benefits of deep breathing is it's not even just helping with oxygenation to your cells. When you take a deep belly breath, that is a parasympathetic response, which is more of a rest and digest response. So it helps you relax, because physiologically you cannot take a deep breath and be stressed out at the same time. So you get multiple benefits from this. The second fundamental health is proper hydration. A good rule of thumb is approximately 1 quart of water for every 50 pounds of body weight on a regular daily basis, up to, for most people, up to maybe a gallon per day. And it's really about just drinking small amounts of water throughout the day on a consistent basis, and the best quality and purest water that you can have, and making sure that you're getting enough. And one great way, because when I say the 1 quart for every 50 pounds of body weight per day, that's just kind of a rule of thumb, but a great way to pay attention to your hydration needs or lack thereof would be paying attention to the color of your urine. You don't want your urine to come out completely clear because that would be overhydration. It could be wasting away some of your electrolyte minerals. And you don't want it a darker yellow or even an orangey color. That would usually be dehydration. You see, you want just a very, very slight tinge of yellow to the color of your urine to really be a better gauge for overall hydration levels for yourself. Nutrition to me is threefold. Number one, it's how do you digest your food? We've all heard the saying, once, if not 1,000 times, you are what you eat. And I'm usually the first person to say, well, that's not really true. You're not what you eat, you're what you absorb and you assimilate. So you've got to make sure that you're breaking down your nutrients, absorbing and assimilating properly. Number two with nutrition is paying attention to foods that you could be sensitive to. Most people don't know about 86% of the people who have a food sensitivity are asymptomatic. So you don't necessarily eat the food and feel terribly right after. So a lot of people aren't aware of what foods they could be eating that are driving sensitivities, which really in essence are driving inflammatory responses. And the third part of nutrition is what we're going to get into a little bit deeper after this slide, is tied into some of the basics with keto and giving you some tips on how you can go deeper with the understanding of the benefits of that way of eating as well. Right now, next with your fundamentals is your healthy sleeping habits. Let's recognize it. Sleep is not just about waking up rested. When you go to sleep, your body kicks into its highest repair of the day. This is when your body does most of what it needs to do to stay in the best possible shape that it can on a regular basis. So if you're not getting healthy sleep, which I always define as waking up as close to sunrise as you can, and then backing that up approximately 8 hours and getting a good solid 8 hours of sleep. And if you have a really good sleep cycle, you would lay your head down at night, you would fall asleep relatively quickly. You would sleep pretty soundly throughout most of the night, maybe getting up once to urinate. And if you do that, you would fall asleep very quickly back to your sleep cycle. And then when you would wake up, somewhere around the time that the sun would come up, you would actually feel refreshed. You would feel like you're ready to take on the day. And that would tell you that you're in a good sleep pattern. Also, healthy activity levels. Understand that your body is designed to move. And movement, while some people might think of movement as it's cardiovascular activity and I need to promote a healthy heart or I need to lift weights and build more muscle, while all of that plays a role, but if you really make this simplistic, your body is designed to move. And movement actually stimulates a healthy autonomic nervous system response. So just really to keep your body healthy, you have to move your body. So if you happen to be somebody who maybe throughout the day, you sit at a desk at work, you need to make sure that you get some movement in prior to work, after work, and then whenever you have a break or lunch, make sure you're moving your body on some level. Maybe sometimes if you're at a desk all day, you can get one of those desks that can actually be a standing desk or a sitting desk, something to keep your body moving through the day. Right? And then also with movement, and after sleep, then after movement of your body, it's also recognizing other aspects of movement. One is healthy bowel movements. You really want to achieve 2 or more healthy bowel movements per day. Usually your primary bowel movement will be in the morning and a secondary bowel movement in late afternoon or early evening. And also with movement, while I'm not a chiropractor, I do support quality chiropractic care because you want healthy movement of your spine. You want to make sure that all the vertebrae of your spine are aligned and moving with freedom rather than being constricted as chiropractors call that a subluxation. Now, after movement is proper sun exposure. So it's whenever possible, and obviously recognizing depending where you live, as far as what that sun exposure may be, and also seasonal aspects tied into this, is getting as much sun exposure as you possibly can. If you have lucky enough to live in an area where you have sun exposure, getting out in the sun on a daily basis and enjoying that, really exposing generally at least half of your skin to the sun, preferably at the times between 11:30 and 1:30, and long enough to get the sun exposure, and always making sure that you're not staying out long to the point where there's any damage. So it's finding that fine line, and there's no hard rule for anybody because everybody has a different skin tone. Somebody with a very light skin tone might only need maybe 10 minutes a day of the sun exposure, and somebody with extremely dark skin tone may need significantly more sun exposure. So you have to pay attention to where you're at with your own individual skin tone. And then healthy stress levels. And notice I'm not saying eliminate stress. I mean, because in the reality, is it real for you to just eliminate all of your stress? And it is not. I don't know anybody who can do that. Heck, even gravity on your body is stress to you, right? And you can't eliminate gravity on your body. And so the thing when we talk about stress is create healthy levels of perceiving your stress and learn some fantastic tools to help relieve stress when it comes out. As I mentioned earlier, the deep belly breathing would help with that. Dr. Mercola has always been a big proponent of EFT, as I have been as well through the years. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use to really help to manage your stress at the healthiest level possible. So that's a good overview of all the simple things that are essential to take care of in your life to really live your best life and to live into your best health. So hopefully that's a good start for you right now. Now, on top of that, some basics of fat burning, also known as the keto diet. Dr. Mercola's, first book with this was really Fat for Fuel. Who got the Fat for Fuel book, and then also the Keto Fast book. Both, some of the, like the Fat for Fuel book, I've read so many books and have received so much information over the years on keto and really how to get your body burning fat for fuel. And this book, Fat for Fuel, is the best comprehensive gathering of information on this subject that I've ever seen out there in the world today. And his book Keto Fast takes you to the next step after you've learned how to burn fat for fuel, how to turn this into a lifelong achievement and still have success across the board. So those will both give you much deeper comprehensive information, but let me at least give you the basics here. So first off, when you're thinking about the basics of fat burning, I want you to understand that the body does have the ability to burn fat as well as burn carbohydrates for fuel. Yet when you burn fat, you enjoy approximately 6 times more energy than when you burn carbohydrates. And also, when you burn fat, it's a cleaner fuel than burning carbohydrates. When you burn carbohydrates, there's more free radical activity and oxidative stress created in your body when you burn fat. And when I'm talking about burning fat, it could be the fat from the food you're eating, and it could be the fat from what are known as ketones. This is the interesting thing. The keto diet has been around for literally decades. It just became more popular over the last maybe 8 to 10 years. And prior to that, it was really more so referred to as sensible eating lower. And back in the day, they used to call it more of eating lower glycemic foods, eating a moderate amount of protein and good healthy fats. And it was something that has been used for literally decades to help people achieve a better level of health. And so now when we think about it from the level of referring to it as keto, the recognition that when I was talking about the difference of burning fat for fuel as compared to burning carbohydrates, when you reach a state of metabolic flexibility where your body can easily shift from burning carbs to fat, and then you don't have enough of the fat or the carbs in your blood to burn, what will happen is your liver will produce ketones. And ketones are very simply, they're just little fat droplets that are produced in the liver that your body can actually burn for fuel. So when you really understand all of the benefits of burning fat for fuel, it really makes a focus on the keto diet so much more easier and pleasant, and something that you really want to achieve. And to understand, it's not about eating all the fat you want. It's about eating low to moderate amounts of protein with your meals, low net carbohydrate consumption. And let me explain that. So as example, if you had if you're eating a food, well, now if it's a packaged food, it'll say it right on the label, but we really want to focus more on eating whole foods. So if you're eating, let's say broccoli as an example, and you look up online, what are the net carbs of broccoli? How you figure that out is you look at how many carbohydrates are in the quantity of broccoli you're going to be eating. So let's say it's a cup of broccoli. You would look at the total carbohydrate minus the carbohydrates from fiber. So let's just, this isn't the exact numbers on this, but let's say a cup of broccoli is 20 grams of carbohydrate, yet 15 of those were from fiber. That would give you a net carb of 5 carbohydrates from a net carb perspective. Now, for a lot of people, when they focus on burning fat for fuel, a lot of people will start by trying to keep their net carbs at 50 net carbs per day or less. Some people get a little bit more aggressive with that, maybe 40 or less or 30 or less. Yet, to me, in the opinion of what I've done with this for literally decades in my practice, and even what you'll understand in reading Dr. Mercola's book, Fat for Fuel, you still want the carbohydrates. There's still some benefits in some of the nutritional value you're getting from some of these foods. And you'll even understand when you get into reading the Keto Fast book, you'll understand that there's actually times once you've reached a level where you have this metabolic flexibility to convert back and forth from breaking down carbs to fat for fuel, there's days where you purposefully want to eat foods that have higher carbohydrate consumption. So that's the more advanced level by the time you start reading Keto Fast. And then lastly, with the basics of fat burning, you want a healthy consumption of quality fats. And I'll even give you as opinion that the highest quality fats for most people would be some derivative of avocado, unsweetened coconut, olives, or a really higher fat nut such as macadamia nuts. And now I know a lot of keto recipes out there that they really just promote the use of like heavy cream and sour cream and cheese on a regular basis. Now that could be considered a healthy fat for some, yet also recognize that very often dairy is a common gluten cross-reactive food. So if you happen to have a dairy sensitivity and you don't know about that, that could be creating some issues as well. So that's why I always say the healthy fats, think of those as some derivative of avocado, non-sweetened coconut, and olives in some level, and then potentially a high-fat nut such as macadamia nuts would be a great way of really achieving this for you at the basics. And as I mentioned before, when you want to look at this much more comprehensively, I would at least recommend starting with Dr. Mercola's Fat for Fuel book. As I said, the best really comprehensive gathering of information on eating in this way that I've ever seen. And then once you find your metabolic flexibility, I really say it's important to look at the Keto Fasting book because it takes keto to the next level to where you can successfully enjoy this life-building way of eating for long-term and really for the rest of your life. All right, so now we'll get into some supplement support. Now, a few different ways to benefit this. So the first area that I'm going to talk about is helping with metabolism, as well as helping with your digestion. And this is with the BioThin probiotic. You see, the BioThin probiotic is 100% a probiotic called Lactobacillus gasseri. And what the BioThin probiotic is different than maybe other probiotics that you're familiar with. Whereas other probiotics where you would take maybe in the morning when you wake up or at night before you go to bed to really just focus on building your overall microbiome in your gut, this is a different type of probiotic. This is a probiotic. It's not a standalone probiotic that would take care of all your microbiome. This particular probiotic has very specific support in your body. And when you would take the BioThin probiotic, you would take one of these before the meal of the day where you have your highest carbohydrate consumption. And what the BioThin probiotic does is it does help promote healthy abdominal fat storage and minimal white visceral fat, which is the more dangerous fat. You want to help support that conversion from the visceral fat, the white visceral fat, into the brown fat that your body can then use to burn for fuel. Also, this particular probiotic does support healthy glucose sensitivity and blood glucose levels already in a normal range. So this can actually be a great support for your overall metabolism. And if you remember, I mentioned earlier, almost 90% of our culture is dealing with poor metabolism on some level. This also helps promote healthy weight management and other factors, including a healthier body mass index, as well as a normal waist to hip ratio using the biothin probiotic. And it helps with a healthy fatty acid production and breakdown. Now, on top of this, this is a great support for helping people achieve what I would consider healthier bowel movements. Remember, I'd mentioned earlier in the fundamentals that in an ideal world, you want at least 2 healthy bowel movements per day, which would be your primary bowel movement or bowel movements in the morning, and then a secondary bowel movement in the late afternoon or early evening. And the biothin probiotic is a very great support for that as well. So that's a great start, especially for people who are challenged with the metabolic health issues, as well as some level of constipation. Remember, in my opinion, that is 1 bowel movement per day or less would be considered constipation. Now, after that, then remember, I mentioned earlier, the gut and the brain are interconnected. So whatever's going on in the gut is going on in the brain, and that's where the keto krill comes in. This is one of my favorite omega-3s. This is one of the omega-3s that I take personally. And the keto krill is really for about firing up your brain power, helping to sharpen your mental edge, with really the brain boosting, blend of supplements in this, or smart nutrients with the keto krill. And it's really a whole different approach to cognitive enhancement and support. You see, because it's not just it's not just made up of the krill, as compared to, regular krill. The keto krill also contains more phospholipids. And to understand what a phospholipid does with the omega-3 is it makes it both water and fat soluble, which is a great benefit for anybody taking omega-3. So not only with the phospholipids and more of the DHA and EPA, but 2 other valuable nootropics and other cognitive enhancing and supporting supplements. So not only the omega-3s, but also choline, phosphatidylcholine, phospholipids, also a caprylic 8 MCT oil, which then also helps to support the DHA and EPA moving to the brain, and also serine phospholipids or phosphatidylserine, or known as PS. And then lastly, astaxanthin, which naturally is occurring in krill. And the big benefit here is that astaxanthin is one of the rare antioxidants that easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. So when we're talking about that connection between the blood or the brain and the gut, you really want to make that connection by supporting both areas. And the keto krill goes a long way in achieving that, along with what we talked about before with the biothin probiotic. Now, the one thing I want to bring up here too is this is tied into both the keto krill as well as the supplement I'm going to talk about next, which is ubiquinol. And it's because here at Dr. Mercola's, any of our liquid-based products that are in a capsule are actually encapsulated by something called the Lee cap. Whereas most other liquid-based supplements that are encapsulated are put in a soft gel. Yeah, so you can see in the picture in the upper right there, that's a picture of a Lee cap. It's a low heat, it's a hard shell, low heat, hermetically sealed capsule. That little bubble that you see in that's a bubble is purposefully placed in there. It's a nitrogen bubble to help to support the integrity of the internal ingredients of whatever is inside the capsule. And the other thing that's very important with this is it has a very rapid and complete delivery in the body, because this Lee cap opens up very quickly in the body and completely to release the nutrients that you really want your body to be absorbing. And this is important because I've even had people share that, they've looked down at their bowel movement after a meal, and some people will still see whole capsules that haven't been broken down in their bowel movement. So you want something that's going to be a rapid and complete delivery. Now, on top of that, another very important aspect of this is the picture underneath the Lee cap that we're seeing there. Now, that picture is specifically, it's a magnified picture underneath the microscope of both a soft gel and a Lee cap. So the picture on the right, and this is the same exact magnification. So the picture on the right is a soft gel, and you'll notice those black lines with the white borders around it. So the challenge with that is those are little microscopic cracks in the soft gel, and you'll recognize with the picture in the lead cap, you don't see those little microscopic cracks. And why this is such a big component on why the lead cap is so important is because when you have microscopic cracks in a soft gel, it's then the potential that oxygen that enters the bottle that your supplement is in can actually eventually work its way through those little microscopic cracks and potentially reach the internal ingredients. Now, if you have oxygen reach something like an omega-3, your DHA and EPA, to recognize that can begin the process of oxidation. And when something oxidizes, that's just a polite way of saying it's beginning to go rancid and spoiling. So you really want to keep oxygen away from your omega-3. And also with the next supplement I'm going to talk about, which is ubiquinol, it's also important to keep oxygen away from ubiquinol because, ubiquinol, which is very, very important for your mitochondria. This is the one thing that I want to say with this is that one of the enhancements of the keto diet is not just in helping to support your overall metabolism. It's not just to help support a healthier weight. It's also to help support healthier mitochondria. Now, some quick things to understand is that mitochondria is, like most people have the understanding that mitochondria is a little powerhouse of the cell or the little engine that drives every cell in your body, which is all true, yet doesn't really give you the whole story. You see, your mitochondria is essential for, number one, about 97% of your energy production. That's one of the big focuses on today's talk, is to help support an improved energy for you. So if you have deficiencies in mitochondria in your body, there's going to be deficiencies in energy. So you want to support your mitochondria. Now, outside of energy, mitochondria is so important for the high mitochondria needs in your body. So that includes your muscular system. It includes your kidney function, your liver function, your heart health, and then also the health of your brain. So when we're looking at overall what we're looking to achieve from a health perspective, and really with what we're talking about, a healthier weight management and also healthy metabolism, you really want to make sure you're supporting your mitochondria. Now, here's a big thing that's important to understand, because usually most of the information people gather through the years about supporting mitochondria is tied into the use of CoQ10. Now, CoQ10 is also known as ubiquinone. Now, what has to happen, though, is CoQ10, what's known as ubiquinone, once it enters your body, it has to be converted into ubiquinol. And then the ubiquinol is what your body uses for supporting the mitochondria. Now, the challenge goes on with this is that once you reach an age of about 30 to 35 years old, you start to have a depleted level of what's called your intrinsic factor. And to understand is your intrinsic factor is what's essential and what's needed for you to convert the ubiquinone, which is the CoQ10, into the ubiquinol. So it's very important as we age, we want to make sure we shift from the use of CoQ10 into the use of ubiquinol. Now, here's another key component tied into this lead cap that I had mentioned a little bit before, is that as far as the ubiquinol is concerned, we use, and really to me, all of the quality companies out there, in my opinion, that are selling ubiquinol, they're usually sourcing from the same place. It's a company called Keto. Keto has they have a special patented fermentation process to produce ubiquinol. And the opinions of most is that Keto makes the best ubiquinol, not just in our country, but in the world we live in. Yet it says right on the Keto website, in a sentence that I read years ago, it had said at that time that ubiquinol is a very unstable molecule, and when exposed to oxygen, the ubiquinol converts back into CoQ10 or ubiquinone. So that's why this lead cap is so important, because when you're purchasing and taking ubiquinol, you want to be confident that in the best measures possible, the ubiquinol maintains its state as ubiquinol rather than converting back into the ubiquinone. And if it's in a soft gel and has the potential being exposed to oxygen, that might make the conversion that you're not looking for, right? So you want to make sure that the ubiquinol maintains its state as ubiquinol to get the benefit that you're looking for from a mitochondria perspective. And it's something that I take on a daily basis as well. And not, and really not just to support energy, but for me, but I'm also looking to, I want to always support my brain and my heart and my kidneys and my liver and my muscular system, as well as, remember, that 97% approximately of energy production in your body. Another supplement I love talking about in this level with metabolic health as well as mitochondria and really managing a healthy weight and as well as metabolism overall is Podiarco. Now, Podiarco has been around for a long time, and it's been successfully used through the decades and generations. And Podiarco, what it does is it supports healthy heart, skin, and respiratory health. It also helps to support your levels of NAD. And this is really very important for your mitochondria because the NAD supports the repair of your mitochondrial DNA and also the biogenesis of new mitochondria. So that's basically the production of more mitochondria. So the NAD is very important, and the Podiarco supports that. On top of that, this can improve overall cellular energy production, or ATP, which is tied into, as we're talking about, helping to support your overall energy. It can also help to reduce the damaging reactive species, or the ROS, in the body. This can help your body maintain blood sugar levels already in a healthy, normal level, supporting weight management and also enhancing strength and vigor. So everything that we're talking about today, basically Podiarco supports and more. So that's something that, again, has been around for a long time. A lot of times people are looking for, well, what's the latest and greatest supplement for that? Well, you don't have to look further when the Podiarco has already been proven for, years and decades to be the support that you're really looking for on that level. And on top of that, the Ketozyme. Now, this is important when you're making a shift from the standard American diet, which is high in processed carbohydrates, high in flour-based products, usually higher in sugar, and often too high in proteins and too low in quality fats. But when you're making that shift into eating the low to moderate amounts of protein, the low net carbs, and then the higher amounts of quality fats, you want to support that from an enzyme perspective. And the Ketozyme is designed specifically to help support your digestive system on the keto diet. So it does contain betaine HCl to help support stomach acid in your body to ensure the complete digestion of your proteins and fats, as well as your absorption of the amino acids. Remember earlier I said, you're not what you eat, you're what you absorb and you assimilate. This plays a big role. This also contains a blend of 3 different lipases to support gallbladder function and to break down the triglycerides and support the proper fat utilization of those quality fats that you're eating. You want that to be going in a positive direction for you. Now, on top of this, it also contains a dandelion root extract that contains an amino acid that helps promote normal bile production and flow of bile from the liver through the gallbladder. And all of this aids in the breakdown and the emulsification of your fat, which is so important because if you're not properly breaking down your fat, this can almost act as a blanket over other nutrients to where you just aren't absorbing your nutrients as well. And then lastly, it also contains an artichoke leaf extract, which then has a further support for liver and gallbladder health and aiding in the digestion of fat, as well as other fat-soluble nutrients. Like think of things like vitamin D3 or vitamin E or vitamin K2, which are all fat-soluble and really need that overall support. So the Ketozyme is something I would typically recommend to eat with the meals that you're having while you're making that shift into the keto diet, and something, as long as you're continuing to maintain that diet, something that I would recommend using longer term as well. Now, other benefits, the ketone energy MCT oil. Now, we do carry both the Mitomix ketone energy as well as the organic MCT oil. But why I chose to focus on the ketone energy is this is really more tied into the benefits of what you're looking to achieve with keto. Because the caprylic 8 MCT specifically, because usually, with the MCT oils, usually they're blends. Usually it's a combination of a caprylic 8, a caprylic 10, and a caprylic 12. And the caprylic 8 is extremely beneficial to the liver and the production of ketones. Remember, those are those little fat droplets your body gets to burn for fuel. And remember, you get to enjoy about 6 times better energy burning those than you do carbohydrates. So you really get the high quality fat burning effects of this. And because of the rapid conversion to energy, the MCTs and specifically the caprylic 8, it's an ideal way to help kind of quench the hunger that you may be dealing with and to really help boost your satisfaction of eating your meals and to extend that a little bit longer throughout your day. And on top of that, to understand, most commercial brands of MCT oil are usually like 50-50 combination of caprylic 8 and caprylic 10s. And some contain very little of the caprylic 8, as it is the most expensive of the MCT fat and is relatively harder to find than the caprylic 10 or the caprylic 8. So our preference for keto is the straight caprylic 8, as it really does convert, as I mentioned, into ketones far more rapidly than the caprylic 10 or the caprylic 12. And it could be also easier on your digestion. Now, there is one thing I like to say with this, though, is if you have not been using a caprylic 8 MCT and you're beginning this as you're focusing on your diet, you really want to start slower and work your way up. All right. So if the directions are saying to take a tablespoon, I would literally start initially with maybe a half a teaspoon, work up to a teaspoon, then work up to 2, and then finally work up to the full dose and work your way up slower. Rather than doing this too aggressively, because if you get too aggressive with a ketone, you could find yourself a little bit of loose stool or diarrhea, and that is usually never the issue when you start slow and work your way up. So those are some advantages there. And also with the ketone energy, this can be something added to your smoothie. This is a great, something fantastic to use in like making a keto coffee or tea, where you can actually add that along with your coffee or tea into a blender, sometimes with also some maybe some coconut oil or maybe even the use of dairy, as long as dairy is not, as far as a cream perspective, as long as you're not sensitive to that. And I'll give you some other easy options in regard to making the keto coffee or tea a little bit later in this presentation. And then also another benefit is keto cider. Yeah, so we have 3 different types of keto cider. We have a spicy, a sweet, and then also a blueberry flavor. And these really help support metabolic health, help to turn on the genes in your body. And I don't mean the genes you put on your pants, the genes in your body to signal less fat storage. Also to improve digestion by increasing stomach acid, and also helps to prevent the complete digestion of carbohydrates. Basically, what then that does, it slows the entry of sugar into your bloodstream. It's more of a slow release of any carbohydrate into sugar than a quicker release, all of which benefits what's going on with your metabolism, is benefiting the overall focus of this whole discussion today. I also want to be really clear, if you're taking a cider, any kind of an apple cider vinegar. Now our apple cider, the keto cider, does contain both cider as well as ginger and turmeric, which all have other benefits for what we're talking about, as well as additional benefits for your gastrointestinal system. And when you're using the cider, you always want to put the cider in a glass of water rather than taking it straight. So that's a very important aspect. And I will say there are some people who really don't like the taste of apple cider vinegar. Now, I will say that I'm one of those people, yet I really do enjoy the spicy. And I will say that if, sometimes something says spicy, but then it's not really that spicy. Well, the spicy is actually quite spicy with a spice from habanero peppers. So if you don't like spicy, I would not recommend trying that one. But then there's the sweet and the blueberry. And all three of these have a fantastic taste. And if you really still don't like the taste of these, even with the blueberry or sweet or spicy, we also carry a apple cider in a tablet. So it's an apple cider tablet rather than the keto cider that you're looking at here. Again, another great benefit for everything we're talking about today. And as I told you, I'd give you some quick, easier tips for making your keto coffee or your keto tea. And our MitoMix Keto Creamers contain really only healthy ingredients. This includes the beneficial fats to help kickstart your day and provide that long-lasting energy you're looking for your body and your brain. And this is ideal for keto, paleo, low carb, and also, depending on which of these you're using, could also be for dairy-free diets, and these are designed for everyday use. So the MitoMix Keto Creamer with coconut milk, or the MitoMix Keto Creamer with grass-fed butter. Yeah, so this gives you an option of a delicious dairy or non-dairy keto coffee or tea in literally just seconds without measuring ingredients. So this is a major advantage. Now, this also does contain the caprylic 8 MCT oil that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, so if you're going to make your own keto coffee and you're going to use the ketone energy that I mentioned, you would just pour the ketone energy in there and then use your own grass-fed butter or your own coconut oil. Or if you want something in a very easy, convenient powder to just pour into your coffee or tea, this is another direction that you can take from that perspective. And with my thank you, as we're going to make some time for a little bit of time for Q&A here as well, I also want you to recognize that it's putting all of this together. It's not just taking the supplements and it's not just the lifestyle. It's really the combination of both. It's utilizing the fundamentals of health that I mentioned. It's utilizing minimally the basics of the keto diet, taking it even further as you become more versed in the utilization of the keto diet, you start to build your metabolic flexibility. I really want you to understand that just a straight keto diet, if you're, let's say as example, you're focusing on, I'll throw out a random number, let's say you're focusing on 30 net carbs per day or less. Once you reach the metabolic flexibility, you've got to change that up a bit. And the Keto Fast book helps you understand how you can use keto long-term and have it continue to be very successful for you to really use for the rest of your life and really enjoy all these benefits. And putting that all together is so very important. Right, Elizabeth?
It sure is. Very,
right.
very important.
And then as far as and Elizabeth, thank you for sharing that. Elizabeth said the Fat for Fuel book is fantastic, and and Elizabeth, I completely agree. As I said, I've read so many books on keto, and I've never found a book as comprehensive and as understanding as Dr. Mercola's book on the Fat for Fuel, and to take it to that other level, because a lot of people, when they go on keto, then they just think, oh, well, I just do it this way the rest of my life. And the simple fact, though, is that if you continue restricting carbohydrates every day, for an endless period of time, that can have some very negative impacts on your microbiome, because your microbiome depends on digestive resistant starches to really be at its healthiest level. So longer term, you want to start adding in the correct, digestive resistant starches for the correct durations of time. And Dr. Mercola gets all into that all much deeper and much more comprehensively in the Keto Fast book. And as far as the supplements are concerned, interestingly enough, because I've been following some form of the keto diet for, I would say probably a better part of over 2 decades now. Long before we were ever really considering it keto. It was, like I said earlier, it was just considered sensible eating back in the day. Eating, lower glycemic levels on the carbohydrate level. And and from the supplement perspective, I take enzymes every day. I use the Biothin probiotic whenever I'm eating a higher carbohydrate meal. I do take the keto krill every day myself. I cycle on and I take ubiquinol every day, and I cycle on and off of the keto cider as well as either Podiarco or something very similar on a regular basis. These are just sensible things for us to do, because a part of like one of the biggest impacts on health is your metabolic health. I can even remember talking to Dr. Mercola, years ago in his practice. I was working alongside him from 2004 to 2008. And I can remember at that time asking Dr. Mercola, when we're looking at blood work, what is the best overall predictors of health? And I remember him saying very quickly, it's like, oh, insulin. You want to make sure you can maintain the lowest level of insulin on a consistent basis is a great predictor of health, because it's a predictor of your metabolic health. And these are all important factors that we discussed today. So, and if anybody has any questions that you want to ask live, if you're on the Zoom call live, you have the ability to either put a message in the chat. So you would do that by scrolling on your screen, and it'll pull up a little icon and a little word chat. You can put a question in there, and then you can also unmute yourself by also putting your cursor over the screen. And you'll see a little looks like a microphone on the lower left that has a red circle around it and a red line going through it. And if you want to ask a question live, you can unmute yourself as well. And yeah, Elizabeth, thank you as always for having me on. It's always such a pleasure sharing these different levels of information with everybody at Marlene's, whether they're in your store or following you online. And you're always such a pleasure to do this with as well. You do such a fantastic job of getting us all together for your viewers to really to learn from and become just further their education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Depke. It's always an honor working with you, and also the Dr. Mercola line. And we are just so grateful for practitioners and presenters such as yourself, who are taking the time and sharing their expertise and knowledge for all of our customers, and all to help those that are on their health journey.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's about it right there, right? And yeah, we're all on our health journey, aren't we?
Yes, indeed. And yeah, back to the fat for fuel book, you're so right how Dr. Mercola lays it out, where it's actually at an understandable level. And because there is a lot of misconception that keeping to that same carb intake for the long run is going to benefit. But whereas, like what you were saying, it can detriment your microbiome, and we want to get things moving and grooving to make sure that nothing gets stuck. So I'm so grateful you brought that up.
Exactly. Well, any last questions for me, Elizabeth, or do you feel confident in everything we presented here today?
Oh, yes, I feel confident. And is there any questions here, folks?
We check the chat. No, looks like we're good. All right, awesome. Well, Elizabeth, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll be in touch soon.
Definitely. You take good care, Dr. Depke, and thanks everyone for watching.
All right, bye-bye, everybody.
Yay!
Oh, that was fun.
Excellent job as always.
Thank you. I appreciate